Get your shit basket out. We're about to start harvesting.
Hey there, cats and kittens. Good afternoon. Marboro Man from Wham Radio and new Wham TV, because we have mutiny people coming right at you from beautiful, the heart of downtown USSR, Deutschland, USA, Chicago, with America's favorite co-host, Miss Anarchist.
Hey guys, this is Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon here on the Wham Radio Network. Welcome back, Marboro Man. It's nice to have you on the show.
Why, thank you so much, Miss Anarchist. I have actually been doing episodes of Marboro Man Minutes to Midnight, which is why I have been a little bit busy, but I'm glad to be back here with America's favorite co-host doing the show. And it's your birthday too, isn't it? April Fools. Or is it?
Or is it? Yeah, I know. But it is my birthday, everybody. It's Anne's birthday today. I'm
Happy
so
birthday,
happy.
Ann.
Thank you so much, Marboro Man. And I just wanted to just go over today's topics that we will be discussing on the show today. We're going to talk about the economy and inflation, job losses, forced labor, and how government and borders create the regulated market. So that's going to be today's show. Welcome back, Marboro Man. Happy birthday to me, Wham Radio.
Sounds interesting. I can't wait. Let's get right on into it then.
Okay, so in the economy today, Illinois IGB, or the Illinois Gaming Board, are really pushing for these small businesses, restaurants especially, to put slot machines into their restaurants and into their establishments, especially turning family-oriented establishments into basically mini casinos.
Oh, really? Yes.
Yeah. So basically, the state...
The state with the mom and pop restaurants, they're regulating them, forcing them, if I'm not mistaken.
No, getting them dependent.
Okay,
they're turning,
I was mistaken.
Yes, they're making these restaurants and small businesses dependent on the state by allowing them to put these machines into their establishments, so that they become dependent on the money that they get from the machines, because the state is expecting none of these places to be making any money. So if these restaurants are not making...
slot machines.
Except for the slot machines, right. So the Illinois is expecting a lot of these small businesses to not make any money because of the COVIDs and all the lockdowns and all the things that are happening. If your business has not closed down by the end of the second or third lockdown and it's still surviving, they expect you to have a machine in your store.
Because you need another source of income or revenue. You need another source of revenue in order to justify just even staying in business anymore, according to the state.
Right.
According to the state.
Yes.
Because you couldn't possibly make enough to stay afloat without such an apparatus, without the gambling in your store. And the tragedy there, of course, is, it is a mom and pop businesses we're talking about, and they're preying on dregs, really. They're preying on the underbelly of society, the negative side of life. They're preying on the depravity of others, and by accident, of course, completely by accident. But all while you can get your Grand Slam pregnant, or moons over Miami.
Yep, or your Denver omelet.
Omelet.
And that's just a way for the state to extort money from the people unknowingly.
Oh, good old extortion.
Right. So, while you're sitting there waiting for your food and you're putting money into these machines, don't forget these machines only pay out about 20% of what's put into them. So if you got $100 in the machine, it's only going to pay you back about $20 after you put in $100.
And there's even a maximum that you can even cash out.
Yeah.
You can't even cash out the ultimate amount of whatever your wealth might be if you should you win it.
Right. And I think here in Illinois, if your winnings are over $3,000, a state representative has to come out and pay you the money. So it's all recorded on top of that. None of your winnings are actually, anonymous. You are recorded, and you eventually, I believe, even on your tax forms, you have to write down if you've had any gambling winnings.
That's correct, yes, you do. And let's always remember, folks, capital gains tax is $14,999,999. So that's $14,999.99. That's where the capital gain begins. That's what income tax is. So unless you're cashing a check for 14 and all those nines, you don't have to pay income tax. Remember that, folks.
That's some very good advice. The next topic we wanted to talk about was inflation and how it's related to the economy, and especially with these machines being put in, because food prices are going up, gas is going up, and these people are putting money into these gambling slots machines, not really aware of the inflation.
It's almost like the credit card machines in a way.
Well,
so in case I don't have enough money for my Milky Way Snickers bar and my gas, I can always go to my friendly slot machine and try to win just enough to get over the edge, right? Maybe the wheel will come down, I can spin it.
You can spin it, right?
Spin it, spin it, spin it.
So with all this inflation going on, especially like they want to try to get as many of these machines into these businesses, it's really just a distraction from the inflation that we're experiencing. Seeing, people sitting at the machines don't really realize how much money they're actually putting in, how much they're actually winning back.
No, that's right.
Yeah, and it's usually like a.
They see it all at once in one bulk amount that comes at them as winning, and they don't see the bulk loss because it's trickled loss, but bulk reward.
Right, and then it's again, what is it? Bread and circus.
An illusion, yeah.
It's bread and circus for the people to not see the actual inflation that's happening in their grocery stores, which I'm shocked that they don't even have machines in the grocery stores yet.
No, they do. I've seen them. They're just not everywhere yet. But actually, sadly enough, I have seen the moms and the pops in the grocery stores gambling. They're the ones that own the other grocery store that's in competition with the bigger chain that already has adapted the system of putting casinos in their stores. Oh, slot machines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to the next topic, we wanted to talk about like job losses with all after basically, post-COVID 1984. Obviously, we had a lot of businesses shut down and foreclosed completely. A lot of, if anything, millions of people in the past, 3 years already have lost their jobs. There was actually more job losses than jobs that were actually created in the last 3 years. We haven't been able to actually make enough jobs for people to have a job, which is why there's still a lot of people who are not at work right now.
Matter of fact, speaking of jobs, Marboro Man would like to promote his current position, which is a contract with Liberty Tax, and I am dancing in the street, which is a warm-up to the moonwalk across the city of Chicago. That is a compilation from all of our sponsors, and I will actually be raising money for the children by moonwalking across the city of Chicago. And that's actually how hard it is to find a job, folks, because I'm moonwalking across the city of Chicago to raise money for the children because there's no better way to do it. So we have to resort to real creativity, folks, and moonwalking.
Well, we always love giving to charity.
And JC's Resale provides all of our wardrobe, as usual.
Thank you. All right, Marboro Man. So going back to the job losses, since there were a lot of business foreclosures and a lot of job losses that were caused from the business foreclosures, a lot of the sector of the workforce that had the hardest hit with job losses is actually the blue-collar work. So factories, warehouses, shipping supply companies, docks, all type of people or all types of jobs that require a lot of manual labor. That's where they got hit the hardest because don't forget, not only we outsourced in the last 20, 30 years a lot of blue-collar jobs overseas and into other countries, whatever we had left here has now completely diminished because of the COVID 1984 lockdown, because of government overreach, especially with the media being full-blown...
You're saying supplies are depleted?
No, that the jobs in supplies are depleting.
To get the same rate.
Right, so we have supply, there is supply, but it's not being moved around because there's not enough labor to move the supply around.
Exactly. That's kind of like something that we learned with the Freedom Convoy, in fact. Whereas, it's easier for you to cut the head off of the snake if you're at the point where you actually are in control of what supplies are going across, like the bridge, for example. Stopping the bridge, that cuts the head off snake. They are not, the heads aren't able to get their supplies, therefore the bottom parts can't get their paychecks, and so on, and no one listens to anybody. After a minute, you have real anarchy, which is really a good thing, not a bad thing, but, because people have to trade. Commerce is your surviving tactic, actually.
Interactions and transactions.
I would rather do business with this person than shoot them.
That's right, yeah. But see, unfortunately, government is in the business of shooting people.
Shooting people, yes. And shooting first and ask questions later,
right.
Too. They're famous for that also.
I'm shocked that they didn't go to the supply chain and shoot the entire supply chain and then blame the supply chain for why they got shot and now we have no supplies.
I can't believe it. All this brainwashing over shooting.
And that's exactly what Trudeau did, was he blamed the supply chain crisis on the truckers.
Right.
Instead of, taking responsibility as a political leader and saying, this supply chain crisis started when we started the lockdown. See, they didn't want to blame the lockdowns or the China virus or anything. They didn't want to blame it on anything else but the people. They wanted to say, it's your fault, people, that this virus escaped China. It's the people's fault.
Right.
They want to blame the people for it.
What they tried to do,
instead of the politicians just taking responsibility for their mistakes.
Hide a little info here, hide a little info there, and before you know it, everyone will believe what we said.
So going back to the blue-collar work, another area that took a big hit was independent contractors that perform a lot of blue-collar work. So we're talking about
nonprofit work.
Right. And so we're talking about construction workers, people who build the roads, electricians, plumbers. A lot of these independent contractors took big hits.
Certain daycare employees, depending on what region they're in.
Well, I'm mostly talking about blue-collar work.
Right, yeah, exactly. Okay.
So basically what is happening is a lot of these independent contractors want to get paid cash for their skills. They want to be paid well, and they want to be paid cash, and they want to negotiate their wages. Whereas we are currently in a communist country, that cannot occur. You cannot have those things, so because we're in a communist country, all the independent contractors are going to other places where they know they could get paid cash for their labor and be able to negotiate the wages. Whereas in communist countries like USSR-USA, you're not going to be able to do that, and they would not be paid in cash. It would be paid on a credit system.
That's right, yes, and that's very unfortunate and sad that we used to in the USA be able to, I said it recently, I'm much happier in the 1950s America in my brain, because it's much easier when capitalism actually worked and you could do things like that. But anarchist is correct, you are right. It has unfortunately become a communist society in America, and you can no longer utilize the capitalist leverage like we used to have.
Correct. So with all these major blue-collar job losses, there's not going to be anybody around really to create more buildings, make more houses, build the roads, and yada yada. You're not going to get that infrastructure that where an open, free economy would be able to provide those things. In a communist market, a heavily regulated market, will create forced labor. So what'll happen is they basically remove the middle class as a group of people that can bring in income and make money to pay for these infrastructure costs. They will remove the middle class and turn them into the new poor class. Create a group of undesirables, and then basically create a whole system of laws that would put these undesirables behind bars and turning them into prisoners, where they have to listen to the government. They have to do what the government says. At this point, they're being held hostage. So what'll happen is, instead of people, the road workers making the roads and the construction workers building the buildings, you're going to have these large groups of prisoners who don't have the skills and the know-how to create these infrastructure, and it would be all shoddy work like what they were doing in China. Like that's what happens in China, and they have those ghost cities.
Right, that's correct. Yes, they have ghost cities in China, which are cities that apropos to the what do they call the yield, the lowest common yield, kind of like lowest common denominator, but it's called a yield. And the way that works is they actually build these cities, ghost cities, just keep building them, and they pay the employees, you know, so that there's some sort of banking transaction going on, there's some money moving back and forth and everything, and then they'll have an army, literally an army of real estate agents go out and try to sell all this real estate, and of course they're going to be completely unsuccessful because it's not that there isn't enough people to occupy those spaces, of course. The problem is that there isn't enough people to be able to afford or qualify for loans to be able to live in those places. And the people who build them, the ideal people who would be who normally would live in the places, the people who build them with their paycheck that they get from, you know, building the thing in the first place, well, guess what, folks? They can't afford to live. They're under the bracket and they can't even get a loan to live in any of the ghost cities. So that's how they become ghost cities, and then their gross domestic product grows, and their basically what happens is when the gross domestic product grows, it looks like a real city on paper, but it's not really. It just increases their bank and allows them to give us more bullshit, which makes the United States have that Chinese credit card that we always talk about. That's where that comes from.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. So going back to forced labor, again, this infrastructure it's not going to build itself. They're going to come up with a whole series of laws to imprison as many people as possible so that they have no choice but obey the government and its dictatorial, arbitrary, you know, mandates, and to build these infrastructures, which will all be shoddy because nobody knows how to do anything. You know, they're not going to be hiring carpenters and actual electricians and stuff. They're going to have the prisoners do it.
So in other words, drugs would be legal, but you wouldn't have enough money to afford them, and then you'd get thrown in jail for not being able to afford your drugs.
Yeah, something like that. And leading the forced labor and going into how government and borders actually create the forced labor and the job loss, the false economy, and the hyperinflation. Like government in general, like wherever you find a government, you're going to find inflation, job loss, forced labor. You know, you're going to find these things anywhere a government is running, because by creating these artificial borders, governments will be able to regulate the market. So they're the ones who are going to let things in and out of the country. They set the prices. They set how much everything can be sold for, or what they are willing to sell it to you for. They might even completely take over an entire sector of the economy and say, well, only this part of the economy has to be run by the government.
Like oil, for example.
Right. Oil could have been ran by the people, especially people who find the oil themselves. They could sell it themselves as independent contractors and sell the oil themselves. But instead, even if you find the oil, the government lays claim to the oil.
Wow, I never thought of that. If there was just some way to get around that obstacle, I would totally do that, and I could make some money on the side. Selling oil, what the hey, everyone needs it.
I mean, if you're really living in a free market, you should be able to sell what's yours freely for whatever price you deem is fit, as long as it's negotiated between both parties. But when a government is involved, that voluntary interaction and transaction is no longer voluntary. It becomes forced, especially when taxes are levied on those transactions as well. So basically, you're going to have a false economy because the government will give you the idea that, like how it is on the news right now. Oh, the Dow Jones is doing good right now. It dropped only a couple of points and this and that, or it went bad. They'll tell you what you want to hear.
It went bad. Yeah, the excuses they use, I know.
They were trying to say it's still good if it drops down.
It's the economy, everybody.
It's the economy. Like it's a TV show, basically. It's got ratings, It's probably the most least watched show in all of America is The Economy.
So yeah, The Economy.
Nobody pays attention to it at all.
That's the truth, actually.
Actually, more
Very
people
sad.
pay attention to the weather than they do to the economy.
That's true. Yes. Well, while you're paying attention to raining down precipitation water, why don't you think about raining down money for a few minutes? Then maybe in this country we can get somewhere if all of us organize together on some sort of plane where instead of precipitation water, precipitation money. I like money better.
I know. I think we all like money. But, I mean,
Precipitation money.
if we were living in a free market, though, anything could be money.
See.
Well, that's all we have for today, guys. We were, going just like touching back on the economy and how Illinois keeps trying to force its way into small businesses by interjecting and getting these casino machines into these little small businesses because they do expect that none of these places are going to make money. So if you own a small business here in Illinois, do your best. Actually contact us at www.toplinepro.com so we can help get you some free advertising, some free marketing, and some free help to be able to get your business out there. We want to help you guys, and we're actually there for you little guys. We don't want you to have to stick these money laundering machines in your stores for you guys. We don't want you to have to ruin the atmosphere of your business with these machines that'll basically turn it into a slum.
No, we'd rather everybody who needs your product actually see where you are, what you have, and how they can come and get it, and exactly how much they're going to pay for it. And we make a lot of noise in order to make that happen. And that's the basic part of it, which is exactly why we're doing the moonwalk across the city of Chicago. It's exactly why JC's sponsors us by providing all of our wardrobe for the show. And matter of fact, they'll also be providing the special shoes that will be necessary for the very interesting moonwalk across Chicago. So that's raising money for the kids, for the children's foundations, that we can help these children have, milk and education and things that they need to succeed in life, just like Anne and the Marboro Man.
Okay, and then just, if you could pull your face from the screen long enough to notice all those inflation prices going up, food, gas, probably your weed bill if you have that too. And if you're paying attention to the economy and not the weather, you would also notice the record levels of job losses. And actually, just to touch on to the forced labor part, Illinois is actually lowering its standards for police officers. So expect this summer to be very violent here in Chicago because they will be hiring
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Real cowboys.
No, they're going to be hiring scumbags.
What I meant by real cowboys, yeah.
I doubt, no. Some
The
cowboys
homeless,
have real...
no, I meant like the homeless style cowboy. You know what I mean? Like the bad style, the bad guy in the black hat.
I don't know if that's what they're actually gonna hire, but at the same time, all I'm saying is this summer's gonna be very violent
Should
here.
be interesting.
Very violent here in Chicago. So
I'm gonna have to keep my eyes peeled because I do a lot of outreach on the west side myself, and if what you say is true, and then I guess I've got some obstacles ahead of me because I know how those chaps can be.
all right, and then don't forget, government is the border. So if you have a government, you more than likely have borders running through wherever you live. Just remember that those borders are actually the reason why you pay about $9 a gallon of gas right now. So just keep an eye on, don't keep an eye on the Putin-Ukraine thing because that's really not the reason why gas is going up. The real reason is because the real president of America, President Chairman Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve, he's the reason why inflation is going up the way it is. So don't forget for President's Day that we don't get to elect President Chairman Jerome Powell. We don't get to elect him.
He just sticks up there.
Yeah, he just gets to sit there unelected.
Unelected, yeah.
Yeah. And he gets to decide how much money our money is worth.
Oh, I see. That's right. He completely unopposed by anybody, can do whatever he wants with our money.
Uh-huh.
Good old Uncle Jerry.
Yep. All right, guys, that's the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon here on the Wham Radio Network.
And I'm the Marboro Man from Wham Radio and New Wham TV, because we have Mutiny people. Leaving you all with a nice thought for this evening. Happy, happy, happy days and happy, happy, happy evenings.
Happy birthday to me and happy April Fool's Day to you.
Fantastic. Signing out, folks.